What's happening, brand nerds? Back at you with another podcast of brands, beats, and bytes. And this is a What's Poppin' edition. And brand nerds, let me tell you, on this one, we've got something really interesting popping. What's poppin', LT?
So we do, DC. This is we thought ideal for the brand nerds and us. We think this is a really interesting topic for us to hit. And that is the confluence of Taylor Swift and Super Bowl week.
What'd you say? What did you say?
That's right, right? Like, you know, obviously Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce dating takes this thing to a whole other level. And with the Kansas City Chiefs playing my San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl, we thought, brand nerds, this is just a really chewy subject for us to get into. So D, you want to get into it?
LT, given that I just heard someone today say, I'm not watching the Super Bowl because I'm tired of Taylor Swift, I absolutely want to get into this. I absolutely want to get into this.
Wow.
Literally today.
Dare I say that person is not a big NFL fan? I mean, right? I mean, I can't imagine that somebody, even if you're that turned off by Taylor Swift, if you were a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan or a Niner fan, you're not going to watch because of that.
Kind of hard to believe, but we humans are interesting creatures.
Good point. Good point. So where you want to go first, D?
Okay. All right. So LT, when you raised this, by the way, brand nerds, this is LT's idea. It's a great idea. I thought, probably be kind of surface level, just kind of discussing Taylor Swift and the NFL.
By the way, I think it was Jay's idea.
No, my bad. Okay, it was Jay. You know what? Our super producer, Jay. Sorry, Larry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jay. Super producer Jay's idea. So when she first said it, I thought, LT, I thought, could be interesting, fun. More like, I don't know, cotton candy. You eat a little bit of it, it dissolves, it's sweet, it's nice for the moment, then it goes away. But then Jade and LT, I started getting into this and really thinking about this from our perspective, brands,
right,
and marketing. And that's where it got heavy for me. So let me kick this thing off.
Please do.
Brand nerds, you all have heard me, I think, on several occasions, if you've listened to our podcast, talk about how the profession of marketing and the profession of psychology are cousins, closely related.
First cousins.
Because they deal, Larry, with human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go into an article here. This is from Deadline, and the author is Lynette Rice. This article was published on the 30th of January. So not quite 2 weeks ago, right after the AFC Championship game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, it was on CBS. The telecast was 3 hours and 9 seconds long. Taylor Swift was seen at the game, as you said, Larry, supporting her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, who is at some point will be a Hall of Fame tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs.
First ballot.
Yeah, first ballot. So the telecast was 3 hours and 9 seconds. LT, would you like to guess how much screen time Taylor Swift had? And let me just say this, brand nerds. There has been utter outrage at her presence at this game. Utter outrage. Okay, take a guess. 3 hours and 9 seconds, total telecast time. How long dedicated to Taylor Swift?
I would say a minute tops.
LT, you are nearly right. So there's a marketing analyst by the name of Jason Pauly. He did the analytics of this.
Right.
44 seconds.
That's a minute tops.
So you're 16 seconds off from a minute, and you said a minute tops. All right. So brand nerds, for those of you all who are doing math, that's 0.39% of the entire telecast of the AFC Championship. Not 1.39%, 0.39%.
You could have blinked and missed her.
You could have blinked and missed. Okay. Yet there's all this outrage
Yeah.
Which then begs the question, LT, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why all the outrage? So now I go to the psychology point. World-renowned professor at Harvard, Larry, you know this because we use him in our work. His name is Gerald Zaltman. Gerald Zaltman, Harvard professor. So this is in the Hidden Minds article of the Harvard Business Review, first published June of 2002. I quote from this. He says, what we really think is largely hidden from us, in other words, most of us, we know, we don't know, we know. And I was like, what does that mean? We don't know, we know. It's about the subconscious mind. He says probably 95% of all cognition, all the thinking that drives our decisions, behaviors occurs unconsciously, and that includes consumer decisions. What he's talking about here, LT and brand nerds, is emotions. Emotions subconsciously drive us, and then we rationalize with logic. I'm going to go to another person, LT. Just stick with me here, brand nerds. Stick with me here. Okay, so this is from an article on CNBC by a dude named Tom Huddleston, and he's quoting Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger, who died in October, formerly vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. So this is Warren Buffett's company. So Warren Buffett's the chairman, Charlie Munger's the vice chairman. Friends for decades.
I just want to point out, Charlie Munger, from everything you read, was like Warren Buffett saw him as somebody completely indispensable to everything he's ever done. Yeah,
he's sage. Yes, right. That's Charlie Munger. Okay, so this is where I started to think, why are people so upset about Taylor Swift in this game when it's 44 seconds, 0.39% of the time? Here's what Charlie Munger says. This has nothing to do with football.
Right.
This is one of his principles. He says, the world is not driven by greed. It's driven by envy.
Ooh.
And then he says, I have conquered envy in my own life. I don't envy anybody, Munger said. I don't give a damn what someone else has, but other people are driven crazy by it. And I'm like, Charlie Munger, envy. We might be getting somewhere, brand nerds. We might be getting somewhere. I continue. Here's another article from Medium. The person that wrote this article is Dennis Beschov. If I'm mispronouncing your name, I'm sorry. This is from August 10th of 2023. And it's about envy. And he goes into this a little further. So he quotes Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger says, I think envy is one of the major problems of the human condition. And that's why it figured so prominently in the laws of Moses. Remember, he said you couldn't even covet your neighbor's donkey. Okay, this is Charlie Munger. This is Charlie Munger. Now he goes on. This is Dennis. He goes on to do another quote, a parable, an old Russian story. He says, there is an old Russian story where a farmer finds a magic lamp. He rubs it, and a genie appears who promises to grant him one wish, LT, one wish. He said, the farmer thinks for a moment, and says, my neighbor has a cow. I don't have a cow. I wish my neighbor's cow dead. Okay. So this is what he says. This is envy. So then I thought, okay, so what is envy? So Charlie Munger has now brought forward this thought of envy, not thinking about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and the reaction, but just envy. Okay, right. And then I said, what is envy really? Because we like to get into stuff here on Brand Beats and Bytes. Here's envy. Now this is from Psychology Today. So this article was written by E.Q. Hagen, August 21st of 2014, LT. So it says this: to feel envy, 3 conditions need to be met. First, we must be confronted with a person or persons with something, a possession, quality, or achievement that has eluded us. Second, we must desire that something for ourselves. And third, LT, we must be personally pained by the associated emotion or emotions.
Wow.
So then I'm thinking, okay, what could people be envious of Taylor Swift? What could pain them? What could they think? What do you have that I don't have? I go now to Monica Mercury, December 13th of 2023. 9 times Taylor Swift crushed 2023. I'm just going to read you the top 3, not all 9.
Yep.
1, she became a billionaire. 2, her Eras tour grossed over 1 billion. And 3, she was named Time Magazine's 2023 Person of the Year.
And that's just 3 of the 9.
That's just 3 of the 9. Okay. So, my brand nerds and Larry, what's popping for me is a question. Why is it that millions of people can lose their minds over 44 seconds of Taylor Swift time when Travis Kelce, his brother, Jason Kelce, was on a telecast from the same box that Taylor Swift was in 1 week prior when the Kansas City Chiefs were playing the Buffalo Bills? This dude was standing, screaming outside of a box with a Miller Lite in his hand, all right, shirtless in minus 27 degree weather. And he was on screen longer than Taylor Swift. Why?
Okay, D, this is so great. Brand nerds, all we had was the topic. So we just decided we're going to take this in our own ways. And so we have not planned this at all other than
No,
that. So
we have
I
not.
have an answer for you.
Please.
So Branford Marsalis, famous jazz musician, wonderful jazz musician, has done so much in entertainment, including being the band leader in on Jay Leno's show back in the day. So I saw Branford Marsalis in an interview, and it was with Bob Costas, and somehow fame came up, right? And Branford Marsalis said that he took a class in college, and by the way, brand nerds, he went to Southern University, the great HBCU, so I assume that was at Southern. So Branford Marsalis said that he took a class in college, and it was an American history class. And one of the things that came up was that the origins of people leaving the old world, and again, God bless the Native Americans, because they're really the people, we won't get into that politics.
Yeah.
People who supposedly discovered this land.
But respect, this is America's, their land. It was taken from them, but go ahead.
Taken from them entirely. So we won't get into that. So the people who came from the old world, i.e. Europe, who came here, the early influx and even the middle influx, a lot of those folks came from places like the UK, Great Britain, France, and Spain, and other places that were all monarchies. And guess what? If you were born, like most people, not in the monarchy, you could never be the king. There's nothing you could do in those old worlds. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And this Branford Marsalis's professor said that was the psychology for many people leaving, to say, I can only get so far in the caste system that is the monarchy. So I'm going to go to this new world where there's no king, right? And so in this new world, as what was not a country, but then grew up into a country, we are a country of folks who supposedly anybody can aspire to what they want. Now, again, D, we know Black folks were taken here in an awful way and in a slave way. So, but here's the point that so that's the genesis. But the major point is this: that we as Americans see people who come from humble beginnings, and we see all of ourselves in that person. And then that person rises up, and we love that person on the way up. And by the way, this could be musicians from Frank Sinatra to Elvis Presley, to athletes like Michael Jordan, to famous movie stars, whomever you want to talk about. And as that person goes up the mountaintop and becomes the king, or queen, again, this isn't obviously masculine or feminine. When that person reaches a certain level, then the envy kicks in and we say,
Mm,
ooh, we don't like, this isn't a land of kings and queens. This isn't a monarchy. And all of a
ah,
sudden they're at the top of the mountain and we start to throw stones at that person. Again, the proverbial
yeah.
stone. And we want to knock that person off the mountaintop because they know, we know all the frames. Oh, Madonna, she grew up in Michigan. She's not, she's this star. When I knew her when, she didn't do all the things of the affected British voice. And again, I'm just talking about things, right? We then, as a society, this is sociological, take that person down. We want to take that person down. Taylor Swift is at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
There's going to be so many people because they are envious to take her down because we do not want her to be the queen king of this country because that doesn't exist according to the psychology of the culture that we have built here. And by the way, people have second acts because, again, Frank Sinatra, great example. He became the king, and when he got too high on his horse, according to this culture, he was brought down. And then once he was brought down where he understood that, hey, man, you're like us again, now we could bring him back up again and he can become the king. And it's a cyclical thing. That is the answer that I think to your question of Taylor Swift, if that makes sense to you.
I'm buying that answer. I'm
Right?
buying that answer. I had no idea you were going to go there. No idea.
I didn't know where you were going, but I saw this interview many years ago, and it's always stuck with me as it relates to celebrity in this country. I think it's dead right. I really do.
So LT, 2 points here. One is another part of the world where this is prevalent. It's in Australia and New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called the tall poppy syndrome. I know you know this. For the brand nerds that do not, I'm going to read here
don't
from
know
Wikipedia.
It actually. Tell me.
I thought you okay. So it's tall poppy, Poppy, like a flower,
Right.
syndrome, refers to successful people being criticized. This occurs when their peers believe they are too successful.
Yep.
Or are bragging about their success. Now, Taylor Swift is not bragging about her success in these NFL games. Intense scrutiny and criticism of such person is termed as cutting down the tall poppy. Cutting down, snipping the tall poppy. So that's my first connection. Here's my second connection. LT, I want to posit this question to you. What do you think are the implications for brands who are seeking to do partnerships with celebrities, given that there is this syndrome, tall poppy syndrome, and what you described as climbing the mountain, then we're with you, reaching the scene, and now we need to bring you back down. What should marketers be thinking about as they begin their selection process?
Oh, that's a great question. Two things pop in my mind, D. One is, it really depends on what kind of brand you are. Are you a brand that's going after the brand lover? So in this case, let's use Taylor Swift, right? That's what we're talking about. If you're going after the Swifties, very bluntly, you don't care because the Swifties are ride or die. They're gonna be with her, right? As she goes on that mountaintop, they're gonna stay with her. But if you're trying to ride the wave of her immense popularity, talking to overall culture, you got to be really leery about it. So it really depends on your objectives as a brand. Really, who is the consumer that's most important to you as you ride the Taylor Swift wave?
I like that, Larry. I'm going to give an example of that, excuse me, close to home. And a full disclosure, Aflac is a client of Brand Positioning Doctors, and has been for some number of years now. LT, 3 or so years ago, it was Shannon Watkins, who was then the CMO at Aflac, who led bringing on Coach Prime.
Yep.
Now, this was a different Coach Prime now. Coach Prime was at Jackson State University.
Right.
Yep, another HBCU. So Shannon and I are in a conversation. She's describing what she wants. She'd already identified Coach Saban, the GOAT, and she and I together then said, okay, let's pair Nick Saban with Coach Prime. And
which was brilliant, by the way.
It was brilliant. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Thank you very much. Brilliant. I'm gonna thank you also on behalf of Shannon. Yep. So she knew that right away and put these two coaches together. It was all love.
Yep.
Shannon now departs to be CMO of the Jordan brand, and Garth comes in.
Who's Garth been on the podcast for a What's Poppin'?
Garth, current CMO,
yep.
CMO of Aflac. And during this time, Coach Prime moves from Jackson State University to Colorado. So he's moving up. The amount of vitriol that came Coach Prime's way as he's tracking up. Then he beats TCU. The team beats TCU. And I'm telling you, Larry, you know this, Larry, brand nerds, they were coming out of the woodwork. Garth could have said, well, now, we're getting a lot of resistance and blowback from some people. Maybe we should distance ourselves from Coach Prime. Maybe not real. That's not what Garth did. He doubled down.
Yep.
He doubled down. So the point here is that if there is a personality whose values align with the values of your brand, it doesn't matter whether you're going to have haters or not.
Yep.
In fact, if you don't have any haters, you probably don't have anybody that's all that compelling. And then I just want to say this, because I don't think
that's a key point. I want to interrupt. That's such a key point, because to have people who are really emotionally connected to you, you're gonna piss people off too.
You're going to do it.
That's part of the cost. Yep.
And let me just go back into results. So last year, there was a point where Aflac stock, this is public information, Aflac stock hit an all-time high.
Yep.
All-time high. Had Garth bailed on the combination of Coach Prime and Coach Saban, I'm not saying that's the only reason they hit an all-time high, but I'm saying that's part of the reason. That's part of the reason. Now, as an interesting twist, Larry, I know you didn't know I was going here. Can you talk about your connection to a young Deion Sanders and Powerade and how you made that decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. The way we made the decision was really simple. That, again, just like your Sprite example, Brandon, you got to go listen to the What's Poppin' about the origins of what DC did with Sprite and Obey Your Thirst. The origin with us going with Deion was very simple, that we knew his Q score, his Q rating, and Branders, if you don't know what Q rating is simply if you know the person and like the person. So it's both. It's a factor of both. Know him, know he or she, and like he or she. So Taylor Swift's Q rating is through the roof right now. Okay. Yeah. So Deion's Q rating with males 12 to 24, which is our target audience, not our brand lover, our target audience, was #1.
And what year was this, Larry?
This was in the mid-90s.
Mid-90s, okay, good.
Okay. I shouldn't say that. Sorry. Jordan was #1. MJ was #1. Deion was #2.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So that was the genesis of it. And we also knew, because he was two sports, at the time he came to my Niners, won the Super Bowl, and then, was also playing baseball for the Reds at the time. You knew if you hooked yourself to Deion, he was playing 365 days a year. That wasn't a small thing for us. Right? So that was important.
And LT, were there any haters?
Oh, a lot of haters.
Prime time?
Oh, yeah, there were always
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Deion understood that. No one is more brilliant at understanding their brand as a person than Deion. Deion was, when he was 25 at the time, brilliant. One of the reasons why he did the deal with us, he had a Nike deal, but he didn't have any other national deals. And he understood the power of Coca-Cola and being with Powerade. And, he knew that would establish himself in a way with corporate America that was going to work for him. And it worked out great for him. D, do you mind if I take it back to Taylor Swift?
Please, brother, please.
So I want to get into a couple things because, and this goes right to what we're talking about. It's actually a great segue. Where I'm going with Taylor Swift is I'm all about the Swifties, right? The Swifties who have been with her ride or die. So I found what I wanted to. My research was I was trying to find out what are they thinking as with her meteoric rise. So I actually found a Reddit post by Swifties about this very topic. Can I read a few of them for you? I think they're really interesting.
Let's hear it.
So, quote, I've been a Swiftie since Red came out, and man, was it a shitstorm to be a fan of Taylor Swift at that time. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing about how annoying her voice was and how she was only writing songs about her exes. You know the story. But now that she's gotten such a massive amount of positive attention these days, I've definitely noticed my friends and other people in my life seeking me out to ask questions about her, like, quote, did you see she did this and this? And I just find it also interesting how our lives have changed because of her. So I was wondering if anyone else has noticed the difference in their life. So what I find fascinating about that, brand nerds, one of the tenets to what we believe as marketers, you got to understand who your brand lover is. The Swifties are Taylor Swift's brand lover.
Yes.
Who will be with her ride or die. And so what I found really compelling with that, this woman has obviously been with her from the get-go. And she, brand nerds, becomes an influence to everybody else. You notice people are coming to her. Hey, tell me more about this Taylor Swift. She's now an influencer in her fandom because people are seeking her out. That's what happens when things get popular. The Swifties become really influential in all things Taylor Swift, right? So that's where I was going, D, to find out what they're thinking. Okay, I find that really interesting. A couple others I want to read to you, right?
Yeah.
This is another person. The best part, she is finally getting the recognition she deserves. It's no longer socially unacceptable to say that you listen to her music. Many people who used to roll their eyes at the mention of her name are now respecting her as an artist. The worst part, I love how cozy and special our fandom used to be. Right now that so many people are listening to her, I kind of lost that spark. For example, to me, August is a special song from a remarkable album, but now it feels like people see it as a TikTok trend. So you know why I'm reading these two. This is about the brand lover. The first one saying, hey, come, I'm cool. The second one's going, yeah, I still love her, but it's chipping away with all these people coming. It's chipping away at my love of her. She's losing the spark. So if I'm Taylor Swift, I don't want any of my Swifties to lose the spark, right? So D, I'm going to read one more to you, and I really would love to get your thoughts on this. So these are great, aren't they?
They are outstanding.
Right? So this is very short. Best thing, everyone knows who she is. Worst thing, everyone knows who she is.
That's good. That's good.
And again, I'm not making that up. That's exactly a post that somebody had.
Wow, Larry. This whole Taylor Swift thing and the Swifties, I love you describing the Swifties as her brand lovers because they are. I want to remind some of the people who may listen to our podcast and are in that group of folks that say they're tired of it. They don't want to see her involved with the NFL anymore. They don't want to see she and Travis Kelce on the screen anymore. They're not going to watch NFL games. That's not true, by the way. They are, not only are they going to watch, they're going to watch more. But for those that will even utter those words, two things. The first is Taylor Swift as a brand. So Taylor Swift as a brand, by virtue of her wearing an NFL jacket by a woman named Kristen, I think is Jasinski.
It's Juszczyk. It's the Niners
Juszczyk, my bad.
Juszczyk's wife.
Juszczyk. I'm sorry, Kristen.
Worlds are colliding. The Niners and Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
All right. Yeah. Juszczyk. I'm sorry. Sorry, Kristen, and brand nerds, and for and for her mother and father as well for butchering her name. Thank you for that, Larry. So this woman is now, she's the designer of that jacket By the way, Klay Thompson also wore that jacket riding to a Warriors game. You know this better than I do, Larry. And now Kristen has an official license to produce merchandise, jackets, and I would presume more with the NFL. So Taylor Swift as a brand, wore this jacket, and now Kristen Juszczyk, she is now as a brand going to blow up. This is a very good thing, brand nerds. This is a very good thing. Second beat, anything you want to say about Kristen and the whole jacket thing?
No, you said it perfectly.
Okay, here's the second thing. Brand nerds, I'm a girl dad. My daughters are Haley, Lauren, and Sydney. And perhaps one day they will do something where they themselves will become brands. But long before they were brands, they were daddy's girls. They were the children of Daryl and Valerie. All right, their mother and father. Taylor Swift is someone's daughter. Taylor Swift is someone's sibling. Taylor Swift is someone's cousin, niece, or something. She is a young woman in love. Mm-hmm. Let her be.
Yes.
Let her be. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well said. It's interesting. I want to say a couple personal things. One is, I can speak for you on this, D, because we have nothing but respect and zero envy for her. God bless her. Right.
God bless her. God bless her.
I want to state that. The second thing is, our niece, Gabrielle Levy, is a Swiftie. Gabrielle has been to, I don't even know how many concerts she's been to. She knows pretty much every word of every song. And she and her friends, and Gabrielle's in her mid-20s, just turned 27. And it's a thing. It's a real thing. And I think it's a wonderful thing. And Taylor Swift is along the lines of American music icons, from Sinatra to Presley to Michael Jackson to Madonna to, the people you can say one word to. She's at that level right now. And in this fragmentation world where so many people are just in their own corners, for her to achieve this is a really phenomenal and incredible thing that she's done. And by the way, a couple of interesting tidbits I want to point out to the brand nerds. A lot of dads, like real, as you said, the girl dads. I'm going to read you a couple tweets that who are also football fans said. The Taylor Swift effect. My 7-year-old daughter is demanding we watch the KC Miami game. Dad approves.
That's good.
Right? Which is really funny. I'm going to read one more. Say whatever you want about Taylor Swift in the NFL. My 12-year-old daughter has just asked me to point out Jason Kelce, and it spurred an entire conversation about why linemen have the numbers they do. I love her beyond words, but the kid never cares about football. That was cool.
Nice, LT.
So this is a phenomenon, and there's obviously going to people who are going to see all parts of this phenomenon. And one other point, D, that I want to point out. The NFL also, lost in all this, the NFL is right now, has been a juggernaut and is at the top of its popularity. Right now, it could even go higher. Who knows? The ratings for the NFC Championship game among your Lions and my Niners peaked at 59 million. There was no Taylor Swift in the audience there, right? And the AFC game between the Chiefs and Ravens peaked at 55 million. So yes, the Niners-Lions game was later, so that usually draws bigger ratings. But this isn't just about Taylor Swift. The NFL is just kicking on all cylinders right now. So that's important as we think about brands. And that's why we wanted to talk about this, because you're talking about two juggernauts that are on parallel paths and the confluence of both. And it's pretty incredible. And that's why Roger Goodell and all these owners are thrilled beyond words about this happening.
May I just add, the 49ers who beat my Lions, my beloved Lions. Proud of the Lions. What up, though? Proud of my Lions. Eminem was in the stands in Santa Clara, throwing up 2 one-gun salutes, to the fans. I've not heard any outrage about that.
That's right. Oh, that's funny. Maybe that's a great way for us to end here, D. What do you think?
I think we ended right there with the one gun salutes by Eminem.
That's awesome. Okay. So thanks for listening to Brands, Beats, and Bytes. The executive producers are Jeff Shirley, Daryl D.C. Cobbin, Larry Taman, Haley Cobbin, Jay Tate, and Tom Dioro.
The Podfather.
That is he. And if you do like this podcast, please subscribe and share. And for those on Apple Podcasts, if you are so inclined, we love those excellent reviews. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we look forward to next time, where we will have more insightful and enlightening talk about marketing.